Testing, are we coming through here? Yeah, I think we'll line up over here. Um, yeah, probably once everyone's like set up, just want to make sure we're all ready. All right, I think we're about ready. Oh yeah. As festive as it is. Oh, Miriam, there you go. Nowadays that'll get you. Yeah. So Jen, there we go. And we can line up in order. You can just say, like, and here's assisting yeah. Kicking things over to them. The casual. We'll actually line up in the speaker order too, so Jen, if you want to get the mic, and then her.
Checking it twice. I have a prop. Is that okay if I have a prop? Yeah. I have another one in my back pocket too.
Have everyone afterwards. And then start it?
Yes. All right.
Well, I think we can get things going. If we've got the media ready, everyone ready?
Just gonna lower this just a tad.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go.
All right. All right. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to Choo Choo Bob's. My name is Jen Moberg. I am the owner, and we are over the rails excited to be partnering with Minnesota in this new recycling program that they are unveiling today to help make recycling easier for all of us, including consumers and us in the retail industry. Here we deal with a lot of packaging, so I know it can be overwhelming, like the day after Christmas and your living room is full of packages and you don't know what to do with them all. We have that about like every other week here, so this is just like a half of an order from a week. This little guy here comes in packaging, which comes with 6 other toys just like it in another box with little packaging in between each one, and that box comes in another box, so it's a lot of packaging. And then this train here hit the microphone. This train here comes sandwiched between several different kinds of plastic here in a box and in another box with additional packaging materials in it. So we deal with a lot of packaging here. So we are very excited to learn how the new program is going to help us and consumers better sort out all of this stuff. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Commissioner Alex.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here today. Good afternoon. My name is Kirk Adelka. I'm an Assistant Commissioner with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. And first of all, I want to thank Tutu Bob and Jen for hosting us here at this great location. You know, it is a most wonderful time of the year with the festive decorations and everything around. So we really can't imagine a better place to hold this than a toy store during the holiday season. So next week, as mentioned, there's a familiar scene that's going to play out. We're going to be together with loved ones, opening gifts, and then being faced with boxes from toys and electronics, various types of wrapping paper, plastic that we've used, had our food that we made the meal with, all piled up and not knowing what to do. And this is a very familiar scene. This adds up over the period of time. EPA estimates between Thanksgiving and New Year's Day, we create another 25% in garbage each week. That's about 1 million tons for those 5 weeks between Thanksgiving and New Year's. Our landfills are already too full. All this extra waste is going to only add to the problem, and we do have a trash problem here in Minnesota. But we're not here to be downers and the Grinch. We're actually here to celebrate the passage this year of the Extended Producer Responsibility, also known as EPR, for packaging and paper products. This is how we are looking to make this into a more sustainable future really is because of two key parts within the law. One is manufacturers of materials will have to make sure they create a system to educate and provide more opportunities for folks to recycle. Not only recycle and compost these materials, but also alternatives such as reuse and refill, for instance, beverage containers, so we have less of environmental impact. And above all, how do we reduce the waste in the first place? The second part is by 2032, it will require all packaging to be compostable, recyclable, or refillable. Right now, a lot of times when a consumer wants to do the right thing and recycle something, they look at the package and face disappointment because the material can't be recycled. Their only choice is the trash can. We want to change that here in Minnesota so we can make sure those materials are going to the proper place. This not only will be better sustainability, but will bring societal and economic benefits. Investment in infrastructure will be seen throughout the state to provide green jobs. 2/3 of what we throw away today in our trash cans is recyclable, compostable, or could have been prevented. That amounts to about 1 million tons or $143 million of materials. If we were to capture that instead and turn that into good paying jobs, we'd have over 15,000 green jobs because of our good work. And so this is all really good news for our state that this new program will be coming into effect over the years. Less packaging and making it more sustainable will protect Minnesota's air, land, and water by reducing the pollutants that are created during the creation of these materials, but also the end of life and their disposal. Preventing waste, which is also a key part of this bill, will also help us with our overall 6.1 million ton waste problem here in Minnesota. The best way to handle this is to prevent waste in the first place. So these changes will have a transformative effect on how we package and have paper products in Minnesota and what we can do to them to make sure that they are returned into our resource sector and into jobs. However, 2032 is still a little ways away. We've got a lot of work to do between now and then. So I just want to wrap up by providing some good tips during the holiday season to reduce our footprints today. The first is buy gifts at stores, brick and mortar stores like this one. It reduces the packaging that comes to you. And oftentimes the packaging you get, like the styrofoam peanuts and that, aren't even recyclable in the first place. So let's reduce our packaging by shopping local and keeping those economic benefits here in Minnesota. Bring reusable bags to our shopping trips. Those bags blowing in trees are not Christmas decorations, that's litter. And stay away from wrapping papers that may have foil, plastic, glitter in that. Again, these things are not compostable. but many things are. There are wrapping paper, boxes, gift bags, and that can all be recycled. I encourage you to do so. And then finally, check out the Minnesota Department of Ag's website, because we can even recycle our Christmas tree and greenery for wreaths and other garlands. So with that, I have the pleasure of introducing Commissioner Reinhardt from Ramsey County.
Thank you, Kirk. I am Victoria Reinhardt, Ramsey County Commissioner. I'm chair of the Ramsey County Board, and I, on behalf of Ramsey County and the Regional Rail Authority, am just thrilled to welcome you here. This is such a cool building, and obviously it's owned and operated by Ramsey County. But what we tried to do here was make sure that we maintained the historic nature of this building, and also wanted to have businesses like Choo Choo Bob's in this site. It is going very well, I believe, for Choo Choo Bob's, and it's the vibrancy in this area is just really fun to see. Coming from a railroad family, my father-in-law would have absolutely loved to be here. Anyhow, I just really think that it is a unique opportunity, and Jennifer hosting us here today was really very, very special, so thank you. I also serve as chair of the Partnership on Waste and Energy, and that's a joint powers board between Hennepin, Ramsey, and Washington counties. We like to work together in the metro area. And the purpose of the Partnership on Waste and Energy is about legislation. And so over the last 3 years, we have been working on this packaging, waste, recycling, extended producer responsibility, which, as Kirk said, is really about the producers taking responsibility for the packaging that they are making. And making it incentivizes them to make it more recyclable. It incentivizes them to reduce the packaging, because if they have to cover the cost of it, then they are, want to make it cost less for them. And it's easy to do. I know that might sound overly simplified for me, but the fact of the matter is we have done so many things in Minnesota to reduce waste, and the manufacturers, once they got on board, said, hey, you know what, this is a better way to do it. I remember plastic bottles that had a big black bottom to them and a different top and a different plastic for labels. That doesn't happen anymore, and it's because they are trying to do the right thing. And that's what we want to see in packaging as well. We were able to get this law passed. It's the first one in the country. But for us in Minnesota, we have been really a leader in recycling. And I should back up a little bit. It's the first one in the country that's like this one, because we like to make sure that we are covering all the bases so that everyone has something to gain in the process. So we are first in the country in recycling. That we are first in. But we've been stuck for many years because you get to a certain point, you get the low-hanging fruit, and then trying to go beyond that is very difficult. And as Kirk said, packaging is like 40% of our waste stream. So having that prevented or reused or recycled is really going to be a great thing for the environment. A lot of people don't know that counties are responsible for waste management in this state. I don't know why they would know that necessarily, but it is a mandate that has been put on counties to be responsible for that, which means that we spend millions of dollars, quite frankly, every year handling waste, handling the recyclables, and trying to do the best thing we can for the environment. So we want to make sure that we keep the waste out of the landfills, which is the worst as far as handling the waste with methane going into the atmosphere. But we need to work with our cities, the municipalities, the businesses, the residents. Everybody has to come together to do this. And having this from the producers is going to be really great. As I said, we spend tens of millions of dollars every year on waste management. We need to do better. We need to do better for the environment, and that's really what we are about. So it will invest in local markets, creating more green jobs in Minnesota. And we are really looking forward to having the producers take responsibility for what they have produced and making our world a better place as we improve the environment. Again, reducing waste, then recycling it, reusing it. Those are the things that we need to do, and we'll have a better world because of it. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Miriam Halsinger she is the COO of, now I can't even think here, Eureka. I mean, I've only been part of Eureka since day one of my career. So, sorry about that.
Hi, thank you for having us. We're so grateful for the work the agency and the bill authors, Representative Sidney Jordan, and now Congresswoman-elect Kelly Morrison, for their work last session to advance this much-needed law. I'm Miriam Holsinger, one of the co-presidents of Eureka Recycling. Eureka is a social enterprise, a mission-based recycler here in the Twin Cities. Our team processes about 100,000 tons of recyclables each year into 15 different commodities that support our local supply chain. In fact, about 70% of what we sort stays here in Minnesota, and over 90% stays in the upper Midwest. We work to demonstrate that recycling can and should be done in ways that benefit our community, our environment, and our regional economy. Unfortunately, the growing packaging crisis is making this work increasingly difficult. Problematic and unnecessary packaging is trashing our recycling system, driving up costs to our communities, and polluting the environment. Unchecked changes in packaging design often creates too much non-recyclable material, which floods into our facility, clogging up the system and causing contamination. Fortunately, under this new law, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency will be tasked with developing a statewide recyclability list. With this list, there's real opportunity to eliminate some of this problematic packaging, and as well as the toxic materials that are accompanying with that packaging. And by doing this, it ensures that just material that can be effectively sorted, collected, recycled, and reused, and sold to responsible end markets is created. Following a needs assessment, the agency will also set reduction, recycling, and reuse and post-consumer recycled content rates that producers will need to meet. Given the existing infrastructure in our state and the urgent need to reduce our waste, it's crucial that these rates are ambitious enough to drive meaningful change in packaging redesign in our state. With strong implementation of the Packaging Reduction Act, producers will be held accountable for their packaging material choices by paying for the cost to collect, recycle, compost, or reuse their products and packaging. We'll expand access to recycling, composting, and reusable materials, and it will ensure producers redesign their packaging to meet these reduction, reuse, recycling, and composting targets. As a state, we must focus on recycling the right way, not just recycling more. With this new law, Minnesota has the chance to raise the bar for all operations and programs across the country. We really look forward to being part of that work. And now I'd like to introduce Paul Austin from Conservation Minnesota.
Hi, my name's Paul Austin. I'm the Executive Director at Conservation Minnesota. We're a statewide advocacy organization with a network of 150,000 people around the state. And that gives me a lot of opportunities to go around and speak to people. And I can tell you from 20 years of doing this, people are always excited to talk about recycling. And I think that's because it's one of the most direct ways that each of us contribute to protecting our air, land, and water in Minnesota by taking our carts to the curb and trying to make sure that we're doing the right thing with our waste. I can tell you that last year when we were working on passing this program, it was also one of the things that our members were most excited about and wanted to see happen. Making our packaging more sustainable will help reduce plastic pollution, protect the air we breathe, and protect the water we drink. What better gift could we give to future generations than creating change in this system to make it more efficient, effective, and cleaner? Today, 2/3 of our trash could have been reused or recycled, but it's not. And without programs like extended producer responsibility, we're going to see more trash, not less. So the waste that isn't recycled, reused, or composted is burned or landfilled. Hauling growing amounts of trash creates more pollution and creates water pollution, creates using incinerators, creates more climate and air pollution. So this is a great way to start getting that under control and reducing it. And finally, this program will help us kind of rethink and constantly improve our waste system as we go through the next several years. And that is a critical first step to finally reaching what we hope in the future will be a system that really doesn't have waste, but where everything can get reused and recycled just the way Minnesotans want it to be. So appreciate you being here today, and I guess we open it up for questions. And Kirk? Yep. I don't need to take the questions. No.
So we're all open for questions if you have any. We'll be happy to direct them to the correct person.
So what we're seeing there, what is recyclable and what is waste?
So there are a number of things that are recyclable, the cardboard and that. But oftentimes what you see in here are plastic bags, especially if they're multi-layered pouches, they're not recyclable. So even if we wanted to, we couldn't. And the other important part is a lot of things like plastic film and that don't go in the recycling bin. That's going to screw up Miriam and her folks' equipment. It's going to wrap it up and just bring the whole place to a halt. And so that's what this system is about. How do we think about on the front end of how do we handle this packaging, design it so that it can be recycled and reusable and easy, and not on the back end where we have counties, nonprofits, and other private entities that are really trying to figure this out after the fact. We're putting the complexity with where it needs to be born, the manufacturers, not us as individuals.
Just like to add that this is a really good example because this type of plastic is not recyclable. We don't know what it is. Different types of plastics melt at different temperatures. And this could be made with paper, right? They don't have to use this type of non-recyclable material. It could be a renewable, compostable, or recyclable material. So with this law, like the technology exists for companies to redesign their packaging. And so this will just help encourage them to take that step. That will make it all easier for us to put the right thing in the bin.
I know at Christmas and holidays, I mean, our bins fill up fast. Is there something folks can do about bringing boxes or, you know, so their bins don't look like that on the curb, overloaded, or is drop off or anything that they can do to?
So as Victoria mentioned, the counties are in charge of the recycling programs, and a lot of times each city has a slightly different program. So everyone should check with their city to see what their program specifies and allows. I know very many places do have drop-offs, like in St. Paul, there's one on Como Avenue where residents can take their extra cardboard. Additionally, a lot of recycling programs allow extra material as long as it's tidy and neat outside the bin. But once again, make sure you check with your local program because they're all slightly different.
Well, and there are drop-off sites, county drop-off sites. In fact, I was just at the ribbon cutting for one in Forest Lake with Washington County. We have reciprocal agreements. So there are 2 now in Washington County. We're going to have one in Roseville. We're going to be doing the ribbon cutting next year. I'll be there for that. And so there are, and other counties have them as well. So there are places to drop off food, there are places to drop off yard waste, there's places to drop off all the recyclables as well. So we want to make sure that if you have it at curbside, which you should have in residential anyhow, however it works for you, that you have an option to be able to recycle these materials.
With this law being passed, how will manufacturers be encouraged? How will y'all be able to enforce them to have packaging that is compliant with the recycling, composting, and all the rules that are being set?
Well, I'm going to turn it over to Kirk because there is, within the statute, there is an advisory task force that's being set up, and he can tell you more about that. Because we don't have all the answers right now, but we want to make sure that we get them so that everybody understands what the rules are and how, and be part of the solution.
Thank you. There's a couple provisions. One is by 2032, all packaging has to be recyclable or compostable. And that comes with, and you won't be able to sell those products if they're not. So that's one. The second part, and what really makes Minnesota's law nation leading, and Commissioner Reinhardt mentioned this, is there will be statewide requirements, goals for waste reduction, recycling and composting, reuse and waste prevention, and then making sure that products turn into things. So this isn't only going to be changing who does the collection and make it simpler, it's for us to get better environmental benefits, and that's really a key difference here, those statewide requirements on waste prevention and recycling and reuse that other states don't have.
Do you need other states to sign on the EPR to kind of get this moving forward more international projects?
Great question. No, we don't. We are the 5th state. There are some other states this way, and I would be expecting more states to follow the lead, but we can do producer responsibility such as this on a state process. We were sometimes some of the first to do this in other products other than packaging, and so this is something that can be done on a statewide basis.
For example, once an industry realizes what they can do that's going to help the environment and not just meet Minnesota's laws, but others and have that environmental benefit, they want to be able to do it. They understand that that's a possibility. A great example of that was a number of years ago, there was the light-up shoes for toddlers actually had a mercury switch in them. And Minnesota passed a law that said, you cannot have mercury in clothing. Seems kind of ridiculous, but they had to pass that law. I had a friend of mine call me from Chicago and say, what are you doing? And I said, you just watch. When they figure this out, because now people know that there's mercury in these shoes, it will become the industry standard. And it did. I mean, almost immediately it became the industry standard. So I think that that's the type of thing that we're looking at here. We set the example, we get the rules in place, and they're going to find that this is something that helps their business as well.
So this would apply to online sales and brick and mortar stores. So it covers it all. Any other questions?
Kirk, can you talk a little bit about the statewide uniformity and the statewide list so everyone has the same access to the same programs?
Yeah, so one of the things that's happened in Minnesota is unfortunately we have cities that, especially in greater Minnesota, that have dropped their recycling efforts. So for example, earlier this year, Virginia, Minnesota, because it started to cost $400,000 for them to provide curbside recycling to the residents, had to drop it. They couldn't afford it. This bill would require the manufacturers to provide that service to those residents, just like they would get trash service. So this is really going to help make sure that those who right now don't have these great programs that we may have in St. Paul and Ramsey County will be available through the rest of the state. And that'll create that uniform playing field where everyone will have access to these benefits.
This is just a side note. The other thing for residents is, I know in my city I have organized collections, some do, some don't, but they all have bins for recycling and for garbage. And the taxes that are on garbage, if you have something that's recyclable, you don't pay tax on that. There's a cost of service, obviously, but it also saves taxpayers money. Because the cost comes to the counties, it is taxpayer money.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. And again, thank you, Jen and Choo Choo Bob's for having us here and hosting it in this great place. Thanks, everyone. I know, you can leave.